wonderful person. Oh, I'm really excited about preparing this. My roommate, also known as Poppy the cat, decided she was going to help me have flowers on my pages. When we gathered together before, we talked about stillness. We talked about silence and power that comes from our capacity to be still and silent, and how it is such a gift because it takes us into that place within where we know God is all that is, where we know the source, where we know spirit, whatever name you want to call the oneness, that is found in the silence, in the stillness. And when we can find it within those moments, it begins to expand throughout our life. It takes form in the world. We begin to see it everywhere we look. I don't know about you, but sitting still in the silence has been a journey for me. It's taken a while to get there. And I'm not always there. There's times when I sit in meditation and it's just not happening. And I will still sit and continue to. I came across an idea that I really appreciate, to incubate stillness in everyday life. And we use our breath to do that. So we notice when we have an inhalation, followed by the exhalation, there's a pause at the bottom of the breath. That's our still point. And if we can allow ourselves before the next inhalation to bring our mind and our focus present into the moment with our breath, we're practicing stillness. And that's kind of like priming the pump so that stillness is not such a long reach. It is something that is immediate, imminent, and present for us. So I'm asking if you feel so inclined for the next few breath cycles to just notice the inhalation, the exhalation, and that pause that's still before the next inhalation. And if it feels safe and comfortable, we can close our eyes to do it. This can be a meditation in 3 breaths. And then we can have an idea. And the idea is to let this moment be just as it is. So as we're breathing and finding the still point, our thoughts will continue to have their yak attack. We love to do that. It's just a stream that moves through us all the time. What if in that next inhale we go, I accept, or I let this moment be just as it is. And then we find the exhalation, and on the inhalation, I let this moment just as it is. These are simple practices that can bring us into presence, into the moment. And we're going to go right into meditation now. We've already primed that pump. So here we go. In the center of our being, the light, love, power, and presence abides. Aligning with presence, We acknowledge the divine nature within us, within each other, within this world. The essence of spirit is illuminated, and we know the attributes of light, love, and joy as true in this moment. Holding these spiritual qualities lightly, we engage all one with a sense of harmony, heartfelt connection, and a deeply abiding peace. Within this awareness of oneness, welcome the recognition of our eternal being, our timeless soul, our infinite self. We allow ourselves to rest in silence, holding these things like we know with confidence the light, the love, the power, and the presence of all that is here and now. And we are immersed, surrounded, embraced, enveloped by all of that which is. And so it is. I like to free range. I had the opportunity last year to attend and get to teach at the Big Sky Retreat in Montana, which went on for 48 years. And it was founded by a minister of Ernest Holmes' lineage, the Science of Mind. And at that retreat, I got to meet a man, a reverend, a minister, a unity minister named Paul Hasselbeck. And Paul Hasselbeck rocked my world in a way that created a depth of understanding that I had not, up until that point, allowed myself to own completely. We were talking about the presence of God. What does that mean? And how do we show up? And how do we know? And if we're all a part of that, how do we incubate it fully? And we began talking about the prayer of protection by James W. Freeman. So at the end of every service in unity across the globe, we say the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, power protects me, the presence of God watches over me. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. And we're all familiar with this. And I said, how do we up-level this so people really own the knowing that they are not talking to a God out there, they're talking to themselves. And he said, that's easy. I am the light. I am the love. I am the power. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is. Yeah, right? So we would go like this. Yeah, it touches the heart. We know when truth is being spoken because there's a resonance in our body. We feel it when truth is being spoken. And it becomes our capacity in a time of great chaos and seeming urgency to get somewhere to do something, but we're not sure what it is anymore because of so many confusing factors happening in the world. And so much information flooding in. And what is true? What is truth? Truth has a vibration to it. It doesn't change. It is unalterable. When things become complex, I love this in the Course in Miracles, Complexity is the ego talking. Truth is principle-based and very simple. It embraces things like love and compassion and joy and upliftment and harmony and cooperation and community and inclusion. All of those things spring forth from principles of truth. These quotes are from Paul Hasselbeck. Our divinity is identical. So when we talk about oneness, we're talking about the divinity, the divine that is in all of us. It is our humanity that makes us different. How we engage with other human beings on this planet, how we think about them, how we act with them, how we move through the world with other beings. And I'm not just talking about humans, but as we work our way through the world, how our humanity shows up by how we treat each other, the planet, the four-leggeds, the feathered ones, all of the nature, how we treat it. That is our humanity. That's what makes us different. And then he went on to say, every principle comes with no instructions. Every principle comes with no instructions. So if we're looking at the law of mind action, that which you hold in mind produces after its kind, number one unity principle, that doesn't have instructions. What does it mean? We are invited to grow our awareness and have that instruction make sense to us. And this is the rest of that quote. Every principle comes with no instructions. You choose, there's that word, you choose how to activate the law. And I added, you choose how to activate and thereby experience the law. So when we begin to look at spiritual principles, we have a journey that we go on. And these may be familiar to you. The first step along the journey is the literal journey. And I'm sure you know people who read spiritual literature or information literally, right? Does anyone know anyone who takes things literally? And that's okay. That's fine, because every soul has its journey, and we're invited to disentangle our need to have other people have a journey that looks like ours. So that's it. That's the bottom line. We're going to untangle ourselves from demanding that other people see the world the way we see it. Why? Our divinity is identical, but our humanity is different. So the people who follow the literal path have a need for that. There is a sense of assurance and certainty when we take things literally. And that's called blind faith. We're taking it literally. The next step along the way is moving into intellectuality, which is a very fun one for me. I like to read a lot about different spiritual practices and principles and how they relate. And all this excites me and that interests me. And I have a head full of intellectual information. And that information I can turn into complexity like that. But complexity is not easily digestible at a soul level by other people. And we enter heaven, of course, the miracle says we enter heaven 2 by 2. We don't go to heaven by ourselves. We go to heaven when we are engaged in community with other people and doing the work of upliftment, doing the exploration of what it means to be human and support another person on their path and encourage another person to unfold their gifts. All of those things are vital to bring about the next step. So we go through the intellect. How many of you have read every spiritual book ever written that spoke to you? How many of you go into your bookshelves and into your garage and there's just reams of books and you can't get rid of any of them because they're the best ever, even though you may never pick it up again? We love reading about it, and reading about it, finding the information is not the same as the actual experience of it. Yeah, back rows aligning here. Let's see that. Yeah, we are aligning. The next step is metaphysics. We're in a metaphysical community here. We understand that there's something beyond the physical world, that so much of life, so much information that arrives in our inbox is metaphorical. And if we can learn to read the metaphors, if we can learn to understand the mythologies, if we can allow ourselves to step past the appearance of the physical world, we will find illuminated an understanding that far surpasses anything that the brain can organize. And metaphysics is a step on the path, but it's not the end. You can be metaphysical and be this next step. You can bypass everything and get to the next step. But the next step is the mystic. I'm thinking into the mystic by Van Morrison. Into the mystic. The mystical experience is the one where there are no words. When we arrive, when you and I, each of us individually arrive at a place where the mystical becomes everything, there will be no words. So the idea of a ministry, whether it was Jesus or Buddha or your favorite spiritual teacher or writer or guru, whatever it is, the idea of that person, the underlying expression of that person is to be a way shower, to point toward this. And eventually there will be no need for ministers because we will all have moved into that alignment. We will know the mystical truth in every moment. But like Darcy sang last week, we do remembering and forgetting. The song Remembering and Forgetting. We remember what it's like to come into that alignment, to have had that recognition of a depth of love that knows no bounds and has no name, really cannot be described. And it may have happened at sunset, or in the forest, or when we're holding a baby, or when we're holding our beloved. These moments where we feel beyond the physical body, we feel the energy fields of life around everything. Most of us have had an experience like that. If not, now you know it's going to happen. But most of us have had an experience like that. And then we go, I want to have more of that. And then the next thing we know, we're back to chopping wood and carrying water. The next thing we know, it's like, oh, here's the next bill. Oh, the cat needs to be fed. Oh, this isn't, oh, the that's. But what happens when we do that upleveling, that level of uplift, when we come into this fullness, this full expression of life, where we know that we are connected in oneness and there is no separation. Our divinity is identical. When we know that, not every cell in our body may know that. Not every story in the warehouse that we hold here may know that. So we get these bursts of light that come into us. We have these revelations and these experiences that are absolutely marvelous. And then we start looking around and, oh, it's ordinary life again. What is happening is when that amount of light, that amount of presence, that amount of radiance comes into us and illuminates the cells of our being, everything that is unlike that needs to come up. needs to be up-leveled. And so we are everyday mystics walking in this world, doing our best to remember our oneness, our heart connection. I was thinking about breath, and because if you don't know, one of the things I do is I teach yoga, and breath is vital. And I started thinking about breath and the heart center. So when I talk about the heart, we're not talking specifically about the physical heart, which is magnificent. I'm talking about the heart chakra, I'm talking about the center of the heart. And the heart chakra encompasses the physical heart as well as lungs. And so when we're talking about depth of experience of what Jesus was pointing at, what Buddha was pointing out, and we're talking about that, we're talking about the nexus that happens right here in the center of our chest. Energetically, it is the point of connection between the physical body and the universal body. It all meets right here. If you've ever seen the Star of David, the six-pointed star, there's the upper part and the lower part. And in the middle, there's the center. That's who we are. We go down like a triangle, harmonizing in the heart, connecting with all that is, connecting with our universal, shall we say. We're bringing that into our body all of the time, and we're being invited to become heart-centered. Why? Because that is where the finite, that's our body, meets the infinite. That is all that is. It is where the timeless meets those of us who walk in time, our bodies. And when we rev ourselves up to become heart-centered people, and we begin to listen closely with the heart, we are generating a field of energy that will connect with everyone else that is generating that field of energy. And there's days when we feel like we're in this alone, and I guarantee we are not. And all across the face of the planet, people are sitting in their churches, in their synagogues, in their ashrams, in their mosques, in the woods, all over the face of the planet. People are sitting right now, holding the idea that the heart-centered life is what is ascending and how what we are evolving into. A heart-centered being. That's where we're going. And you and I know that it comes and it goes. It's like a pulse. It's like a pulsation. But eventually, our entire field of being will be that focused, the infinite within the finite body, the infinite within the finite body. So decades ago, when I started my spiritual journey, I want to say it was years ago, something close to 50 years ago, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was standing on the top deck of the Markham Bridge. There were no cars. It was just me, and I had a backpack on. And I knew that I was on a 1,000-mile journey of feet. I was walking 1,000 miles. And I woke up and I went, oh, something's happening here. The spiritual journey had begun. And later on, I came to discover the 1,000-mile journey really is the 18-inch journey from here to here. And that's the 1,000-mile journey, is being able to take the brain, I want to say offline. The brain is really good at organizing the nuts and bolts of day-to-day life, but it also has all the stories are locked in there. It likes to pass the bunch. It wants to find it. No, yeah, I remember when that happened. We want to relieve and release the mental body. And a lot of us get stuck in the mental body because we're told the law of mind action is organizing how we think. It goes beyond that. It's not just organizing how we think, it's what is being felt here is what's going to manifest in the world. Heart center manifests thought into being. When we move into our heart center, we become much more effective creators in the world. However we would like to define that, whatever we would like, however we would like to see that come about, it's moving into the heart. Back to our breath experience. Finding the inhalation and the exhalation, and pausing in the still point of the exhalation or the inhalation. Just a few breaths here. Let it be just as it is. Let it be just as it is. Do you ever have the idea of this is how the world is supposed to be? Anyone besides me ever think, I have a great idea of how this world is supposed to be? And I can make a list of all those things that I think would help this world be a better place. And then next to that checklist, there's another one. And the one that faces that checklist is the idea of, am I that which I aspire to? Which I would invite the world to be, am I that? Am I living the expectations that I have of the world? Am I living that? And a lot of times, we may discover that we're falling, we'll call it short in certain areas. Those become the areas where spiritual awareness and qualities come into play. When we begin to allow ourselves to recognize within us places that are not fully illuminated yet, and we're trying to project into the world, make other people be that, which we're not fully yet. Anyone besides me? Yeah. When we're trying to project into the world and get the world to behave in a certain way, underwriting that is a sense of uncertainty, a need for safety, a need for security. When we're demanding that the world be a certain way, it is for our needs. We go back to the idea that every soul has its path. It doesn't matter if it's a guru or a politician or a corporate leader or your next door neighbor. Every soul has their path. And when we stand needing that person to be different, especially if it's from afar, we are impacting the rebirth or the birthing process that the world is undergoing right now. So out of chaos came the world. Out of chaos comes the new birth. If you ever birth the baby, it's chaos. And now we're living in a time of great chaos and uncertainty. And we'd love to see the world change. And we're being asked, those of us who get it, we're being asked to hold consciousness. So this shift, this rebirth, can represent more clearly the attributes of love, light, the right use of power and presence. I am the light. Hold that. I am the love. Be that. I am the power. Be that. I am the presence. Be that. There's so much to say. It is enough to say, what am I bringing to this consciousness rebirth? What am I bringing to this party? couple of things, because we can't leave without having a look to do this. That's my thinking, that's my brain. Brain says you can't leave without giving people something to do. So we talked about breath and using breath to find that still point and incubating that day to day, once a day, or at the traffic light, or when the commercial comes on TV. Whenever, find that still point, because we are aiming to develop what in Sanskrit is called shravana. Shravana means to listen. And to listen deeply requires a still point, to really be able to hear, to come present physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The practice of let this moment be just as it is a powerful practice, because many of us have brains that raise their head and think it needs to be different, and that will show up in our life as impatience. Anyone here know about impatience? Because impatience is the way that we show the universe if we do not trust the unfoldment that is happening in front of us. We're telling the Creator, we don't trust this moment. We don't have confidence that the depth of my expression as a human is going to be fulfilled in this moment. When impatience rises, that's the clue phone ringing, saying, oh, I forgot. I could let this just be as it is. And if I'm willing to do that, something will open that is unexpected and probably delightful. And if nothing else, it will be a sense of calm and peace, because we know impatience blocks that heart energy. Impatience stops the flow. Impatience denies that there is a flow. Impatience says, what river, as we're drowning? That's impatience. We come back to our breath experiment. Just letting ourselves rest at the bottom of each inhalation, each exhalation, excuse me. And allowing this moment to be just as it is. And so it is.